everybody, welcome to InPsightRadio. I am your host, Danielle Egnew, and you are a fly on the wall too everywhere. Welcome to today's bonus podcast. I'm actually throwing this podcast ahead in the line. We've got some other podcasts that are in post-production, right now, getting finished up. But I'm throwing this one ahead in the line because we are having so many emails here in my office regarding the state of the world and people freaking out and what's going on with the money and what's going on with Putin and what's happening with all these things and why is there this Christian nationalist movement taking over, and is it the end of the world as we know it in the United States of America? Oh my goodness, I'm getting a lot of emails. So this is the Break the Glass emergency podcast. Is it the end of the USA? Well, in short, no. And thanks for listening today. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's not. It's not, gang. You know, it's really important to remember that, again, I'm doing an insert podcast here. So this is being recorded on February 23rd of 2022. Yesterday was, of course, February 22nd, the 22nd day of the second day of the 2022 year, which is a palindrome. If you read it, forward and backwards, it's the same. And I love the number 22. Anyway, it's a fantastic number. And it's a very feminine number. It's a powerful number. And it's all about coming into building. It's the master builder number. Make sure you say that very, very slowly as not to confuse and horrify people. Master builder number. It's the number of bringing in your supreme life path. It's a number that means quite a bit. So I was very excited yesterday for the members here on Patreon that are part of the spiritual colleague tier, which is our top tier here on Patreon, our top subscription tier. We have a monthly Patreon Zoom meeting, and our group gets together and we talk about things that have been going on in the world, and the angel who walks with the world shows up. And then we have great channeling sessions, and I ask folks how they've been doing, and we really just weigh in on what's been going on. So the reason I'm doing the Break the Glass in Case of Emergency bonus cast today is because so many folks are really getting sucked into the clickbait headlines that it's the end of the world and it's the end of crypto and it's the end of the stock market. And oh my God, seriously, it is everything I can do to remind myself that it ain't my pig and it ain't my farm when I see especially people who work in my field, energetics or psychic field or however you want to look at it, posting all this stuff that's histrionic and fear-based, about watch the stock market, it's going to crash, and get rid of your crypto now before, the ninth dimension comes in. And I don't know what the ninth dimension is supposed to do to the crypto. I mean, crypto is manifestation, so I'm really not sure where some of these folks are getting their perspective in terms of a higher vibration. And I just get so lost in it. And I see a lot of fear propagation. And let's be straight up, people. Cue the music. Thank you. Here in the United States of America, we have worked hard to make sure that your fear is our marketing dollars. That's right. Here in the USA, we make money when you're crapping blood. And I don't mean cancer, because we make money if you're crapping blood because of cancer. Here in America, we are the most happy economically when our populations are running frightened and scared, just like the extras from the 1950s horror movie War of the Worlds. You see, when you're in fear in America, you buy things. But that's okay. When you're buying things, our economy is soaring. It doesn't matter if now that your healthcare costs have gone up, your medication for your heart condition, which has been spiked due to the fact that, well, we in America scare the crap out of you to make sure that we're all wealthy at the top. That's right. Fear in America has been happening forever. It's how we control the masses. Now, I understand what you might be thinking. Gosh, United States, that's awfully mean. Oh, don't be silly. We're a capitalist country and you're free to make your own choices about how you feel. It's just that here in America, we'd love to make sure that you feel scared. That way, we can sell you stocks, bonds, insurance, more insurance. We have insurance that insures the insurance. We have insurance that insures the shores of the insurance.
Pre-existing conditions apply, including being alive.
So in America, we enjoy having you afraid. Now, before I let you go, I want you to know you're a patriot if you literally have high blood pressure after reading the news every day. That means you care about your country. We care about you too. If you feel that you have
heart palpitations, angina, runny poop, horrible dreams, apocalyptic thoughts, first-time suicidal ideologies, hopelessness, hateful fantasies, heartburn, acne, swollen joints, sexless relationships, insomnia, or cravings for cheese food,
then we've got a product for you. Log on to I'm So Afraid as an American That I Can't Feel My Face.com and find some wonderful consumer products that not only cause addiction, yet add to our incredible economy. Thank you for listening, America. And remember, if you care, you'll stay afraid. God bless us, everyone.
Yeah. Are you kind of getting the picture there? Okay. Really, what makes me so disheartened is even though we know that fear is a massive marketing tool in the United States, many of us still get sucked right into that ideology. And I'm seeing so much of this right now, especially on Twitter. And granted, the Twitterverse is the massive bummer of the universe. It really is. The tweetverse is a lot of pithy negativity and snark and who can out-snark people to get a like or a follow. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous in there. However, it is startling to me when I look at how many podcast hosts are peddling this idea that we're all going to go to a financial hell in a handbasket right now and, log on to my podcast and follow me to find out how to stay out of financial ruin. Listen, people. Anybody who's been following this podcast happens to know that I've been saying for a long time, since 2018, that really starting 2019 and really 2020, we were going to have a huge switchover in our money system and that it was going to get a little rocky, right, with our stock market and with our crypto market. I've been talking about how all of this was going to get rocky and be strange. Yet I never said we were going to die on the vine, and I never said it was the end of the United States. And it is very upsetting to me when I see a lot of these podcast hosts out there with their clickbait headlines that say, we're all going to die. We're going to die. We're going to die. Because what happens is that people actually believe that garbage. And people dump all their stocks and they dump all their crypto and they throw all their money into gold futures. And if you read the fine print on the bottom of a lot of those, dump your stocks and your crypto and you should invest in gold futures. They're usually a gold futures company, okay? Or the podcast is supported by a gold futures company or whatever. I don't even know if there's such thing as gold futures. I'm making that up. But gold is a huge, huge go-to when world economies get wiggly. And the fact of the matter is there's a lot that people can be afraid of right now. Of course, old Vlad Putin's over there being Vlad Putin. And when I key into Vlad Putin, when I psychically look into that guy, he's not on his game like he normally is. He's just not. His whole thing is usually major world power chess. Okay, the guy, love him or hate him, the guy is super brilliant. True story. And the fact is that this move with Ukraine is kind of sloppy. So I got really interesting, and I was looking in on Vlad Putin's mental process right now. And the mental process I see there is not his usual laser-focused self. And again, I'm talking about his process as a leader, whatever, as an authoritative dictator, and I'm talking about psychically peeking into his head here, by the way, if you're wondering what I'm talking about. Yeah, usually old Vlad, he's got a plan, man. And this plan with Ukraine is a plan in his head, yet it's really wiggly. His thought process on this is very loose. And it reminds me, it's very emotional, actually, which is weird for him. I mean, that's not his playbook generally when I look into his thought process. That's why he enjoyed working leaders around the world who are more emotional, like, say, Donald Trump. You know, love him or hate him, Donald Trump is a very emotional person. He makes decisions out of emotion. And generally, Putin is the kind of guy that exploits that in others, okay? So what I look at psychically with Vlad Putin right now is his brain is not firing in that laser playing world chess sort of game that it used to. In fact, his brain at this time is more firing along the lines of emotion. And it's also what I see in individuals with the first stages of dementia, when somebody gets really emotional about something and they really are having a hard time controlling where that dementia comes from. Or maybe a brain injury. I mean, maybe he has a military injury or something, I don't know, that's catching up to the guy. Yet it's a form of synaptic activity in the brain that I detect there from him that is not his norm. So it's interesting because I find this synaptic pattern in his brain more in other people, like people just freaking out about things. I can find it in former President Donald Trump right now. I'm sure he's been kind of fuzzy for a while. So I think his family has probably probably as anybody's family would, concealed the fact that he's been a little wobbly upstairs for a little bit. Mr. Trump has been. Just like Reagan, when Reagan started getting wobbly upstairs, of course, the government didn't want people to know about that either. Neither did his family. I mean, people have families, guys, whether we like them or not, whether you like them or not, whether I like them or not. Folks have families and they do have medical issues. And yes, if you're the POTUS, those medical issues should probably be disclosed. But welcome to America, where we must always seem strong no matter what. So there's that. But anyway, back to Vlad. So looking over in Russia, Vladimir Putin has these really wiggly thoughts. And it makes me sad for the people of Ukraine. It makes me sad for the people of Russia because, of course, the United States is going to come out and sanction Russia. And gang, I don't know if you know this or not, yet I love to noodle around world governments and just check out what's going on in their treasury and what's important to them. And usually I'm looking for ET information, to be honest with you. And it's not like I'm going through sometimes I'm going through top secret stuff, but I don't realize that till afterwards. And then I'm thinking, whatever. So it's nothing that, I could be drug off for knowing national secrets and disclosing them on, unless I disclose them. But the other portion of this is that I'm usually looking for ET activity or interaction with extraterrestrials, with world governments, because I'm looking to see how in line with timelines that the extraterrestrials have talked to me about, these off-worlders, and see where we're at in our time continuum. In other words, if they're saying to me, we're going to talk to Germany about green energy, and then I look into, the former Chancellor Angela Merkel in Germany, and I see, yeah, they have been talking to Germany, but Germany's like, what do you want me to do? The world is idiots. I cannot do a thing with them. They're all stupid. Poor Angela Merkel, right? God bless her. So anyway, I'm kind of off topic, but the point is, when I look into world events, and I was looking into Mr. Putin to figure out what is going on with this Ukraine thing, because it just felt so weird, there is an emotional wiggle there that's not normally there. And thus, this military action in Ukraine is going to wiggle. It's going to be weird. They might march and retreat. They might march on part of it and keep part of it and retreat the other part of it. I mean, there's some just really unstickable weirdness here in Ukraine. Major show of force here. And the thing that makes me sad is, of course, like I was saying, everything gets sanctioned over there in Russia. And then the people are struggling. I don't know if you know this, but Russia produces a huge amount of the world's wheat and corn. True story. We do in the United States as well, but Russia's the other one. They got a big landmass over there, and they do a lot of farming. So if we all say, well, we're not buying your gross national product, including your gas, which gets pumped to the European Union, it's about 30% of their energy over there, gas and oil. So things begin to wobble, and it's unfortunate when we do not put checks and balances on our leaders, when we start to see them fail mentally and they start to do things like this. So I can honestly tell you that the Ukraine situation is just going to be weird, and it's going to be blustery, and it's going to be mildly threatening. And again, it looks like it's a very poorly coordinated political action, even though there are hundreds of thousands of Russian troops over there. It's just strange. The whole invasion is strange. So I'm just kind of sitting back here watching it not really go as Vlad thought it would, but I don't know how he thought it would, because when I look in his brain, there's something else going on in there. There's this, I am going to go in for Mother Russia, and and it's very wiggly. So I'm not sure what's going on over there. Yet I would tell you that, yes, that's going to affect world markets, okay? And whenever we have a world conflict, historically, overall, if you look at the stock market in the United States, and you average the markets, because there's the tech-heavy NASDAQ, and, there's the SNS, which is business-heavy, and all these other things. There's the New York Stock Exchange, which is heavy on businesses that have a certain criteria to them. So when you average all the indexes, they're called indexes. I learned that. Indexes. When you average them all together, then, on average, there's about a 5% drop in the stock market when there are world conflicts. And we can look back in time and see that. And it doesn't matter if it's Vietnam or World War II. It doesn't matter if it's something overseas that caused a financial crisis in the United States in 2008 or 2011. It's the same thing. And the markets still grew after that. So I would just tell everybody, let's not all freak out here, because it's not necessary. It's really not necessary. And it's upsetting me that there are so many podcast hosts and so many, I'll just call it out, psychics and seers and all these people who may be seeing they may be seeing intermittent financial disaster, because there's going to be a little of that. If you couple everything going on with our inflation rates and people freaking out and people actually buying into these histrionic headlines, there are some rough roads there. I mean, we're not blind to what's going on the earth, right? Yet, okay, I'll just call this out. My alarm system, my emotional and my spiritual alarm system gets triggered when I read energetically out of these different posts all over the place. I can read the energy, gang, of please click on this because now I'm your authority, and subscribe to this, and now listen to me, and I'm the one with the answers. I can read that manipulation in the energy. Now, I don't think you need to be an energy reader to get that. And, hey, listen, I understand that all of us as psychics and mediums and translators and all that, we get all kinds of different information. And I'm not saying that just because somebody's getting some information that might be some bad news, that they're not correct. That's not what I'm saying. I am addressing manipulating people's fear to get a fan base. And that really gets under my craw, because those of us who have been blessed with you, with people that we can share we've been blessed. Those of us who've been blessed with individuals who resonate with the way we bring a message through. Those of us who work in this field, we have a responsibility to you guys, okay? To all of you. And I'm not saying we can't be wrong or we can't have a human moment. I mean, none of us in this field are demigods. That's, it's just not the way it is. However, we do have a responsibility to you. And, okay, so that's point one. Point two, people in media have a responsibility for what comes out their face.
And, I want you to know something out there, gang. And I know many of you know this, so I'm kind of preaching to the choir. I've got many of your angels present, gang, when I do these podcasts. And I have the angel who walks with the world. And so these angels let me know about what's happening with everybody, as well as, you in this moment and people who will hear this podcast in the future. I get a future cast of the responses that people have to the podcast. And I just want you to know that even though I know that many of you understand that media tries to manipulate sensationalistic headlines for sales, because as we heard the lady earlier in the podcast, the USA is all about selling on fear. That's what we do here. It still chaps my hide because I am a media professional, gang. I've been working in media for almost 30 years. That's a long time. That's my whole adult life. And I very much feel that I have a responsibility, and so do others that work in my field. If I may just be a little direct this podcast, gang, okay? I feel we have a responsibility to just not chat out our butt crack, okay? Because we're having an emotional feeling, or we want to rant on this or rant on that. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that make money on their rants. And guess what? It's the United States. It's the world. It's free will. Make money how you want to make money. Yet, when I'm seeing people in media that are supposed to be advocating for news, I'm not talking news magazine shows like Fox News or MSNBC. Those are news magazine shows. Those are opinion shows. Those are shows that are completely, absolutely structured to support the opinions of the viewers, okay? That's why I call them. They're like magazine shows. They're opinion shows. They're 2 clicks off from like TMZ, except they have a political bent to them. So I get that that's what those news outlets are, but there's a lot of podcasters out there right now. And there's even some news shows out there right now, which are taking this dire tone of it's all going to hell in a handbasket. And the fact of the matter is, yeah, it sucks out there right now, economically, emotionally, spiritually, psychologically. This all sucks out there right now. I get that. And I'm not trying to sell you a bunch of unicorns and happy rainbows coming out your eyelids here. What I'm saying is it is bothersome to me as a media professional that people do not feel more integrity in bringing forward what they're bringing forward. It is beyond me. So here we have all of these messages that are, yes, stated in fact. Yes, we have horrible inflation right now. Totally true. Yes, the stock market's a little wiggly. Totally true. Yes, crypto is dipping down right now. Totally true. Yet it would be really, really helpful if these news outlets, especially, or these podcasters, would include some historical data with them reporting the news. Yes, it is true that the stock market has dipped a bit as we've gone on and on about this conflict with Russia. And it would be helpful if they would also include the fact that, historically, this is what happens, blah, 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 5% combined markets, all the things. Yet they don't tend to do that, because they want us all watching and they want us all freaked out. There is a way to tell people what's happening by actually telling them what's happening, okay? Include all the facts in there. Absolutely. We have a really ridiculous inflation rate right now. And that in part is due to the fact that we have supply chain issues with COVID. And it's also due to the fact that our previous presidential administration actually reached out to people and gave us all stimulus checks. And that money was going to have to come from somewhere. So that got passed on as a deficit, of course, as national debt. And I am not wagging my finger at the Trump administration for that. They got money to people. The Congress got money and grants to people that really needed it, got an employment to people. I mean, it's one of the few times that I think we actually rallied together financially as a country and got people help.
And then, of course, that administration goes out. We get a new administration. All that debt carries over. And now there's all that debt plus the, Bring Back America debt or whatever. Yet we're so busy fighting in Washington, D.C. It's so embarrassing. I don't know if these career politicians actually believe that people are as stupid as they want us to believe we are. But it's disturbing to me how really stupid they think that people are. It's really disturbing to me because they, too, should have some sense of integrity. They too should have a sense of accountability to their constituents. Yet, my God, everybody's lost their ever-loving mind. That's really the epidemic now. It's not inflation or crypto or stock market or potential military action with Ukraine and Russia. It's that everybody is bailing and covering their own butts right now, no matter the consequence in media or government. And that is the bigger issue, which is actually what this podcast is about. However, I want you to know that there are so many good media professionals out there. There are so many good media production companies out there. Okay, please know that, gang. Not everybody is trying to pull the wool over your eyes. There are a few folks who do that. The networks are set up to do that. And I think we all know which networks those are. However, even in our podcast sphere, we tend to consider podcasters massive sources of information, like special sources of information, secret sources that aren't controlled by the big media. Well, that could be true. It could also be true that some Jane or John Doe is just flapping their lips down in a basement someplace, and that's their opinion on things. Podcasters overall, we are not held to any standard as far as truth in media. I mean, we're on the internet, right? So it makes me really roll my eyeballs. And when we talk about inflation, yes, we are in part here because of supply chain issues, but we're also in part here because in the 1990s, businesses figured out that they could downsize and get one human being to do the work of 90. I talk about this a lot. I may even be repeating myself. But as soon as we could get one person doing the work of 10 people, there is no corporation in the history of America that's going to go back to losing profits by paying 10 people when they can get one person to do that. So the whole recession thing in, the 2000s and the 90s especially was really kind of a shell game through corporate greed. And I think everybody is fairly aware of that. So when I say that inflation is cyclical, it's like we go through these time frames of forgetting that corporations just jack up costs of goods on everybody and take advantage of services that are restricted. And of course, we did have a legit supply chain issue with COVID. So I'm looking at this and listen, gang, yes, you've been listening to me talk about the fact that we are going to have global changes in money, that the money markets were kind of going to belly out. Now, I didn't mean that they were going to go up in smoke and we'd all die and be raging in the streets and having riots and stealing each other's cans of beans. That's an episode of Walking Dead, okay? I was saying that our old world money system, I'm still saying this, it needs to be changed. And the basis on which our world money will be predicated, or what we base it on, will change. And we're seeing that with crypto. There was an opportunity at the very 2019, 2020 for our world markets to start to hedge old fossil fuels or oil production as, a particular, like a standard globally was going to be oil. And then there were a bunch of hiccups and global changes, and so we shifted that standard. Yet we're still looking for a standard that allows us to be, quite honestly, on a global system of finance. And there's a lot of people that freaks out completely. And I have to laugh because I just want to say, gang, you do realize that we are completely a global economy, right? And there's a lot of people who don't. They go to work, they come home, their whole life is within a 50-mile radius of their hometown in Arkansas or Montana or wherever. And they don't realize that the shoes they put on are made in China. They don't realize that the tires that they put together, materials came from Indonesia. Our American manufacturing is down the tubes because it costs so much money to manufacture here. And we're trying to get that started back up again. Yet if you're a corporation that's considered a human being with the same rights by the IRS, then you're going to ship everything somewhere else. And last time I looked, and this could be an outdated statistic because it's about a year and a half old, but the United States was responsible for 40% of the purchases made in China. 40%, man. I mean, if we stop buying stuff from China, their economy takes a major hit. If we stop buying things, TVs and Apple iPhones and our Nikes and all the things we love to buy stuff in the United States. I like to buy stuff. I'm not trying to be some person who says I never buy things. I buy things. Yet I'm aware of where I'm buying them from. And sometimes I'm aware of the fact that I'm buying something made in China. And okay, that Chinese person just has a job. Rock on. Yet the bottom line here is that we are a global economy. So when we're dealing with our inflation rates, a lot of this too has to do with corporate greed, which goes back to me saying that the whole entire world is going to begin to have a standardized system of trade that levels the playing field. And that's where our crypto comes in. I mean, you can be in Russia and buy Bitcoin. You can be in Hungary and buy Bitcoin. You can be in China, and I think they allow you to buy Bitcoin. Maybe you have to be on a secret server over there. But I mean, you can buy things all over the place. You can buy crypto. So crypto shifted to be this world standard of commerce, which is why a lot of countries are really having a hard time with it because they can't control it. And just recently, the United States says, well, you're going to pay taxes on your crypto gains if you cash out, just like a stock. You're going to pay taxes on it. So, that's a thing. Yet, I do find it remarkable that we, as at least in the United States, are just choosing not to learn from our own history or even look back on our history when we see these histrionic and hysterical and cataclysmic and catastrophic clickbait headlines about us going to hell in a handbasket in the United States of America. As a country, our shootings are up, our violence is up, people are tired, they're worn down. Cults are at an all-time high because people just are so mentally tired, they can't even think for themselves. People are just over it. And here's what I want to bring through on this podcast is that, yes, this is an economically challenging time, all right? Yes, I have talked and these angels have talked about the fact that we were going to come on to some really wonky money system and money thing changes and money wonkiness in 2022, actually back in 2019. So yes, we're covering all of these topics. Yet please, 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 please do not get sucked into all of these fear headlines about it all being gone and sucky and all the things. I mean, I'm not here to tell you what to do with your money. I'm not a financial advisor. You do what you want with your money. I will tell you that there is no way I am yanking the small amount of stocks that I have and the small amount of crypto that I have. I'm not yanking that out of those markets. I'm leaving them there because this is eventually going to recover and those markets are for my older age and they probably won't yield what they could have 60 years ago, but they'll yield something. And the money's already put there, so I'm just leaving it there. If we can just have a little faith in ourselves about how we can pull this all together. And one of the things we can do is stop responding to the hysteria, gang. That's our fault. It's our fault as consumers that media produces the types of clickbait headlines and the types of programming that it does. It's our fault because we click on it. Because we're so spun out, I'm not sure if you know what compassion fatigue is. You see it a lot in therapists, in doctors, in psychics, in healers. You see it in people who deal with in activists. I mean, you see it in people who deal with
the most extreme hysteria and horrible instances in people's lives. And one of the side effects of compassion fatigue is tuning out and also being poked with a stick by every passing disturbing headline. That's a trauma response, gang. We're having trauma responses in the United States because of COVID, because of the violence in the United States over the last 5 years, because of the fact that our United States government is not handling lawlessness executed by government officials. They're just they're trying to handle it. They're having these January 6th, whatever, probes, but nothing's really happening. So it's kind of like the kids. The United States is it's like children in an extremely abusive family. You know, they keep waiting for mom or dad to handle it. If dad's the abuser, they're waiting for mom to handle it. If mom's the abuser, they're waiting for dad to handle it. But then mom just goes into this, say dad's the abuser, mom just goes into this codependent thing where we're all supposed to just look the other way and it's okay, it'll blow over and we're just not going to make him mad again. If we make him mad again, then it'll be bad. You know, and that's how the dang federal government is operating right now. And they're trying to go rule of law. And when I do look into the federal government's January 6th proceedings, they are going so carefully rule of law. They are making an ironclad case against people who were involved in that insurrection. And it sincerely hurts my heart that there are folks out in our beautiful country right now who have gotten so insular in their own bubbles that they cannot see an attack on our nation's capital where they were breaking out windows and vandalizing and killing people and killing police officers. They can't separate that from crowds outside of fences in Portland, Oregon that were yelling and screaming, but no police were being killed. Nobody was being run over. And they weren't even police. Those private security people were actually throwing tear gas at the crowds and they were inside of a fence. So, they were okay. So, it's a different thing. And plus, Portland, everybody loves to bring up Portland. What about Portland? Portland's just like Washington, D.C. No, it's not, gang. I'm really sorry. No, it isn't. Okay? No, it isn't. Portland is not the nation's capital. No, it isn't the same. And so I'm sorry that I truly am sorry. Like my heart hurts when I say this. I'm sorry we've lost our ability to have accountability in this nation. I'm sorry that we've believed such garbage with these clickbait headlines that we actually believe that a nation's capital insurrection is the same thing as a protest that got really heated and a little out of hand in Portland, But they're not the same. They're not the same thing. They're not on the same scope. The players involved were not the same, There wasn't a president that was saying, fight like hell and go rattle that, you fight like hell for what you believe in Portland. Nobody was saying that. This is just people, So, it's not the same. And the fact that we cannot accept where we're at as a nation, that's the biggest problem. It's not, I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat. I honestly don't. I live in Montana and we just love on our neighbors here. And there's huge conservatives up here that are the old school conservatives, and they're not what I would call the Christian nationalists that are out right now. And the Christian nationalists that we see pushing national agendas to fight over abortion or fight over trans rights or whatever, they're not Christian. A lot of Christian organizations are nervous about them. They have the most in common with organizations like the Taliban. They want to do away with secularism. Secularism is the problem with these organizations. This has to do with economy, believe it or not. So when we have these organizations pushing laws and pushing our leaders and pushing different people in Congress to come out with these bizarre clickbait headline laws, the Christian nationalists, who, again, are separate from Christian people and Christian churches, and a lot of Christian churches are out there going, we have nothing to do with these wackadoodles. Nothing at all. When we look at this, gang, we're looking at a group of people
that want to do, they want power. You know, even the abortion stuff out there. I have a lot of friends, actually conservative friends and liberal friends who, believe it or not, work together on social justice issues. Conservative friends and liberal friends, not just the liberals, trying to combat this, quote, Christian nationalist movement because it's all about power and dividing people. And it's not good for the nation. So I've got a lot of conservative friends that are like, oh my God, these are the people that Reagan warned us about. You know, this is the organization that Barry Goldwater warned us about. These are Republican people warning people about this movement. And it's because they just want power, gang. And there's always going to be people who want power. The Taliban wants power. You know, really, these nationalists, these Christian nationalists have the most in common with these extremist religious groups that really have nothing to do with religion. They have to do with political power. So if we can just start seeing things for really how they truly are, then we can start being an active portion of the solution. And part of the solution, gang, I mean, it's hard to look away from a train wreck, right? It's hard to look away from a dumpster fire or a car accident on the side of the road. Yet if we can not click on these headlines as much, and until, you know, maybe the president of the United States or someone makes a formal address about something that's happening in the world, we don't get, you know, so histrionic about it. I would suggest not getting hysterical over anything or everything. Yet, if we could not feed the media cycles hysteria, guys, they'll stop putting these headlines out and they'll stop freaking people out. Yet we just can't help ourselves, can we? And we also want to know what's going on in the world. You know, I am not somebody who believes that we should not stay informed. I have a lot of colleagues and I respect everybody's personal viewpoint on this. Yet there are a lot of colleagues out there that I have who believe that, you know, being informed of world events ruins your consciousness. And that's true for them. You know, for me, it's part of my work. I'm a translator. And so what I would bring forward today is that the world is, yes, it's heated and economically things are wobbly. And yes, Vlad Putin is wobbly in his brain right now. He's not the same sharp chess player he used to be. He's a little wobbly there. Yet we have huge opportunities to pull this together. If we don't like how corporate America is directing our economy and taking advantage of an actual recession that was brought on, whoops, sorry, we're not to the recession yet, we're getting there, but to the inflation that, sorry about that, spoiler, that, you know, if we want to deal with the inflation that our corporate entities are taking advantage of, then maybe it's time to stop buying certain corporate products. I mean, we all need food, okay? Yet I think we all could probably look into our life and see where we're buying things that we don't necessarily need. And if corporations are seeing that when they hike the prices to an unrealistic astronomical point, people stop buying, they'll stop doing it, America, because these entities exist solely to make money. If we keep letting them jack up the rates and we keep paying the rates, they're going to keep jacking the rates up. And so I'm wanting to empower you with this podcast. I want to unscare you with this podcast. I want to embolden you to understand that we are not on the other end of a tail that's wagging the dog. We are the tail that's wagging the dog collectively. Do you understand that? We are. Okay? How I spend my money, that makes a huge difference in how these corporations decide to continue to price gouge. And yeah, you know, they're honest to God, our supply chain issues that have now compounded, and now we do have shortages in things like chip shortages on cars. That's an actual thing, okay? That's not a corporate created thing. That's a thing. And the thing started because the chips that were needed, you know, we shut down the manufacturing plants that make the chips during COVID.
And the chips take a minute to make. They're basically little teensy, weensy, tiny electromagnetic cities of information on those tiny chips. And we shut down mines that went and grabbed the silicon. I mean, we shut down everything. So it delayed everything. And this is why I like to tell people, especially I've got some friends of mine that you maybe call traditional or conservative, maybe in the way they think about things. And because their life experience has not lifted their eyes over their local horizon. It's really true. I mean, maybe they haven't left their hometown, or they haven't left their home state, or they haven't dealt with an economy outside of their home city. Their honest to God take on it is, well, we can do it all here in the USA. Because that's their reality, right? And they're not trying to be ignorant. It's just that is literally their life experience. And if you're somebody that travels outside your state, or you're somebody that travels to other countries, or you're somebody that turns it over and reads a label and sees how much copper that the United States is purchasing from torn up rainforests down in Central America, we're buying all this cheap copper to make our electric cars. Oh my God. But by God, we have electric cars, so we care about the environment, except for the rainforest, which is getting harvested for the cheap copper that's going in the batteries, that's going in the cars. So, I mean, it's important that we understand where our stuff comes from. Now, this doesn't mean that you got to be neurotic or a virtue signaler or wagging I like to call it the holy liberal finger. I tend to be a lefty voter, okay? Yet, I'm kind of in the middle on the left, although I could see some points sometimes on the far left, but the far left gets a little way out there for me sometimes. And it's not that I don't appreciate it and appreciate the vision. I'm just somebody whose job is really bringing systems together for change. And that means systems that I don't agree with, right? So it gets to be a really weird job. But the reason I'm bringing up my own political view is because I tend to be more critical of the left, because those are people that I work with and would vote with and might have over for dinner. And we don't need to be wagging the holy finger of judgment from the left over here. Just like our friends on the right don't need to wag the religious finger of judgment at people. Wagging a finger is not good. It's not good at all. Yet we can be aware of where our products come from. Okay, we can be aware, and you don't have to be a superstar at it. Give yourself some slack. We are Americans. We're kind of busy. We're pulled in a million different directions. So give yourself some slack on probably not becoming the world's first and foremost authority on where all manufactured stuff comes from, but just be aware that we are part of a global economy. So, and this has to do with inflation. It has to do with inflation. It has to do with crypto. It has to do with everything rising and falling. It has to do with the fact that our stock market in New York dips out, and my stock in an American electric car manufacturer is going to dip out when Russia and Ukraine are battling it out. That's a global economy. So I want to empower you today to understand that we are not in the crapper that everybody thinks we are. We've got to make some changes in this nation. We have to. With economic, I call it economic injustice, but with the way that our economy it's a rigged economy. And not everybody has the same opportunities here. And you know who always says that? You know who always says, we all got the same opportunities, work hard, raise up. White people. Hey, white people, we have an advantage. And I'm sorry that disturbs some white people, but it's actually true. So if we could just accept that we have this amazing country and we are amazing beings, and our country is a democratic republic, which is a melting pot. If we can just accept that there are great points in many modalities, as long as they are not victimizing others or trying to make everybody live in the same image as that one modality. That's called authoritarianism. It's called a dictatorship. Yet, if we can just take a breath and realize that, yes, we're going to have a couple of years of wiggly financial stuff, wiggly, because of COVID-19. I know America, I know we like to just move on to the next thing. We like to look at our 8 seconds of TikTok and we're on to the next thing. But the reality is we are a globe that is trying to transition and learn to care for one another. The reality is we in the United States of America have taught media that the more freaky they make the headline, the bigger the click they'll get. We have done it all. Now, did we make corporations sociopathic? Not exactly, but we've needed to pay our bills. So we've shown up during downsizing. We've taken that job of 19 other people because we needed to put food on our table for our families, okay? Yet knowing these things, look how much power we have. We have a ton of power, folks. We have a ton of power. So just know that yes, we are transitioning in our money. We are transitioning in how we look at our finances. The socioeconomic decline that we have in the United States is going to continue because there's a major money grab by big corporations because they recognize things are going teats up, okay? So everybody's grabbing. We've got senators and House of Representative folks on both sides of the aisle in Washington, D.C., grabbing as much money as they can right now because they know stuff we don't about things coming into hard times, okay? So is this meant to scare you? No. It's meant to tell you that guess what? We're gonna get through all of it. And we get through all of it by not acting like hysterical guinea pigs that are hopping up and down and squeaking because a 4-year-old is banging on the cage. Pretty pig! Pretty pig! Pretty pig! We literally have got to stop acting like that, okay? And jumping up and down and freaking out. Okay, my producer's like, please don't hit that microphone. That's an expensive microphone. Sorry. My bad. Let me put the pop screen back on. There we go. So we've got a lot to look forward to because this is a time frame of rebuilding. All right? It's a time frame of rebuilding. Did you know that on just yesterday, February 22nd, 2022, the planet Pluto, which is the planet that really rules illusion and the hidden things and money too, there's money there, taxes, kind of shares some Saturnian influence a little teeny bit. Pluto does. And Pluto went direct. It's been retrograde for a long time. It went direct for the first time in the United States since July 4th of 1776, when we signed the Declaration of Independence. Now, I want you to think about this a minute. This is the energy that has been delivered to the planet yesterday, here in the USA. Well, the whole planet, but here in the US. The last time we can put this on the map in the United States was July 4th, 1776. That's when Pluto went direct. And we declared independence from the old world. And we started attempting to build an experiment based upon fistfights and the best dreams of a group of individuals. And it wasn't perfect, and it was in the old world, and there was still a lot of slavery and victimization and genocide and all the things. That's true. Totally true. And I want you to pay attention to what happened when it went direct. We emancipated ourselves from the old world, the Declaration of Independence. We said, nope, we're not doing the old world way. We're going to try to do something new. So I want you to focus on the fact that yesterday, February 22nd, 2022, Pluto went direct. And Pluto brings in empires and brings down empires. That's what it does. So we have a choice, United States of America. We can be part of the solution as dictated by our Constitution and our American civic duties.
We're not here to just ride around and not pay any attention to what's happening in the country. I mean, to a degree, sure. Yet we're also supposed to stay energetically engaged with what's going on in our country, in our local communities even. I mean, if we're engaged in our local communities, that moves upward. It's not that what's happening at the top affects us all at the bottom. What's happening in the bottom America affects everything at the top. Politicians respond to people's response to them. The bottom moves the top in America. But we don't believe that anymore. We're like, no, it doesn't. It's all corporate greed and blah, blah. Well, that's true. Yet we stop spending our money. I'm not suggesting we do what I'm about ready to say, but if every person in the United States stopped paying taxes, that'd be it. No more government, no more military, goodbye, nothing. Because we fund it all. Mostly the middle class and lower middle class funds it all. So when we think about this Pluto energy coming back, what is it that you would like to sign the Declaration of Independence in your life toward? And I was talking about this last night with our Patreon group. With our top level of our Patreon group, we were discussing, what do you sign? What piece of the Declaration of Independence in your own life do you sign to the old world of your own life? For instance, if you're somebody that believes that you will never have socioeconomic equity, how about you create an emancipation from that belief system? How about if you decide you're independent of that old world slave thinking, that you got to show up 9 to 5 or you'll die? How about if you let go of that modality of thought and begin to put your genius out there in other areas of provision for yourself? And do you realize what our first response to that is as a 9 to 5 American who's been trained 9 to 5? Our first response is to say, well, it's easy for you to say. You don't have a mortgage and a kid, and I've been, on all the things. And, oh, darling, we all have our financial struggles, okay? Yet how we draw our finances to us is up to us. This is America. We do have some choices. We do not live, we're not all in an Islamic country that is ruled by a religious organization like the Taliban that says you don't get to do certain things unless we say you do. I mean, kind of. The IRS kind of does that, but I think you know what I mean. So if we pay attention to the fact that we've got this Pluto going direct energy that brings in the rise and fall of empires, and it's weird what's going on with Russia and Ukraine right now. Yet people are like, oh, it's the downfall of the Ukraine. Actually, I look more at this like it's going to impact Russia. That's what this is going to impact. I mean, you guys, I don't think you recognize when I look into Russia, they're broke. Ronald Reagan and Ronald Reagan's administration in the 1980s bankrupted Russia in an arms race. And I don't know if you remember that, if you're old enough to remember the nuclear race with, I think it was Khrushchev, right, back then, and Ronald Reagan. I love the way people leave the D out. Ronald Reagan. And Ronald Reagan literally was told, if we start building nuclear missiles, so will Russia. Because, I swear to God, Russia and the United States just need to go to dinner and hook up, because there's been so much weird tension between these countries forever. If it was a romantic comedy, it would be Matthew McConaughey would be the United States and Russia would be Scarlett Johansson, and they'd have this weird contentious relationship as double agents that fall in love at the end. I mean, this is just ridiculous. But anyway, I'm off topic. If we're looking at Russia's economy, when Reagan initiated the arms race and Russia tried to keep up with us, we built something stupid. Like, I'm going to get this number wrong. It was like 3,000 or some, just thousands of nuclear warheads. It takes one to annihilate the planet, especially those Titan missiles. The Titan missile warhead, and they have new ones since the Titan missile. The detonation device on the outmoded Titan missile, and again, we have new ones now that are even stronger. The detonation device on those old Titan missiles was the very same bomb that was dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. That's the load it takes to detonate the warheads. And they are multiple warheaded missiles, right?
I mean, so why do we need 3,000? We did that so that Russia would keep up with this, and we bankrupted the Soviet Union. That's what happens. We bankrupted them. So really, the Soviet Union has been sucking wind ever since the 80s, and the only thing they've had as a commodity is oil and gas and wheat and corn. And so when we talk about Pluto coming in as a planet, we're talking about the opportunity to bring a rise or fall of an empire. And I feel so bad for the Russian people, man. Oh, God, passionate, lovely, incredible, brilliant humans over there. Oh, and their leader's wobbly in the brain right now and making some wonky choices. And Pluto would favor Ukraine in this particular instance. It would be the fall of an empire rather than the rise of one. So we have a decision to make here in the United States. Are we going to allow the empire to fall by being little guinea pigs in a cage, clicking on the clickbait stuff? And I'm not saying I haven't, okay? I have. So I'm talking to myself here. Mama talking to herself as well right now. It's just that we need to make the decision that we'd like to continue on to evolve our particular nation to really be something amazing. I mean, to really work on and work out by not giving it all this attention. This Christian nationalism gets so much attention because we click on the headlines that say trans kids are attacked by this activist or this group or whatever. Gang, those Christian nationalists don't care about trans kids. They don't care about abortion. They care about power and they care about dividing people. So why are we playing into the handbook? How about if we create situations in our local communities where we are seeing people taking care of other people? I would like to see some of our folks challenge yourself. If you have a person in your community that you know you may politically be at odds with, yet they're a human being and you know that maybe their child went missing or they're having some struggles, challenge yourself to make them a nice meal and bring it over and just say, you know what? I'm sorry things are rough for you and I just brought you some lasagna and I hope things get better. Challenge yourself to reach past this division that's being sold to us in our fear culture, because Pluto is direct now and it's going to ask us, do you support the rise of a new nation or do you support the fall of an empire? And I, for one, maybe I'm just a pie in the sky optimist nerd over here, but I, for one, stand in this giant gap that we have that supports the rise and the evolution of a new way. I support that. And I want you to know that we have a lot of opportunity still, even though things are economically whacked out right now. And yes, they probably are going to be until 2024. Yet it doesn't mean that, oh, it's over. Get your can of beans and get your hat and get your ammunition and go in the backyard and dig a hole down and hide. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying Pluto is direct. What do you write your Declaration of Independence to? I would invite everybody who hears this podcast to sit down and write just a half a piece of paper or a short Post-it note that you declare independence from and list the things that you want to let go of with this Pluto going forward. I'll start. I declare independence from limitation thinking, having to hate another group of people in order to convince myself I am right. I declare myself independent from needing to believe it's all gone to heck in a handbasket because Twitter says so. I declare myself independent from being pushed into negative polarized thinking by others who are more scared than I am. I declare independence from this idea that it's all gone to hell in a handbasket because it's just not true. Write it out. Tape it to your bathroom mirror. Repeat it 1,000,000 times because we are products of repetition, gang. That's why TV commercials play over and over. Did you know statistically that the human brain, to hear something, it needs to hear something at least 20 times before it ingests it? Okay? And you don't have to agree with every single thing I said in this podcast. You could disagree. You could think that the rush on the Capitol was a protest, not an insurrection. You could believe that, I don't know, believe whatever you want. Yet, emancipate yourself, declare independence from that which controls your fear. Okay? And if that's all you get out of this podcast, then excellent. That's the point of it. Yet declare independence from that which authors and controls your fear. And start thinking with a clean head, because this forward Pluto movement is going to change everything in our country. The rise and fall of empires. We decide if this rises. We decide if this falls. We, the people, are driving the financial boat that we are claiming is our oppressor. Are you seeing this now? Okay. So we got a lot of positivity to look forward to. You are far more powerful than you give yourself credit. I'm not telling you to unplug. I'm not telling you to not watch the news. I'm not being extreme about anything. I'm not an extreme person. Because my work has led me to watch energy signatures. And the extreme energies have a purpose. Yet they are rarely involved in the long-term healing of a situation. They may be a catalyst. Extreme energies are a catalyst. And some people are born to be catalysts. We're not all supposed to be the same, okay? I had a good friend of mine, again, big lefty activist person, who I love this individual dearly. They love me dearly. I look at them sometimes and I think, man, what are you doing? You're causing more problems in media than you need to. You're getting people all riled up. And my friend looks at me and shakes their head and they look at me and think, girl, what are you doing? You're milk toasting it out. You're not taking a stand for anything. What are you doing? I told my friend one time, I said, actually, I'm taking a stand for temperance. It's very unpopular. You ought to try it if you really want to stir the pot. Yet my friend has a role to play karmically. My friend has a role to play as a disruptor. There are folks in the more conservative sectors that play a role as a disruptor. Play your role, whoever you are, that's fine. Yet declare independence from that which causes you to believe that fear is the dictator. Because most of fear is psychological fear. There's biological fear and psychological fear. Biological fear is in our DNA. It's when we look at a bear and we just get cold all over and get goosebumps and we're thinking, oh my God, I'm going to die, and we want to run away. Just depending on the type of bear, you might not want to run. However, psychological fear is when we convince ourselves that something is heinous because the devil we know is better than the devil we don't, and we're trying to prepare ourselves spiritually for something that could hurt us, and sociologically and economically. So we go to worst case scenario. That is psychological fear. And psychological fear is what is manipulated by sociopaths, by money-making devices, by marketing. So let's all work on our psychological fear and just take a few steps back and say, is this actually happening? And I would really, really, really invite those out there that have particular belief systems that are set in stone. Believe what you want to believe, yet be open to learning, okay? And that's for my fellow friends on the left. It's for my fellow friends on the right. Let's just be open to learning so that our ignorance in an area does not drive us, or our bias does not drive us. Let's have fun learning. Let's have fun being full people. How's that sound? You know? And I'm not saying don't be who you are. I'm not saying give up your convictions. I'm saying let us all continue to learn. And let's not learn in bullet points in 8 seconds at a time on TikTok. And let's all take a minute to recognize that with direct Pluto going direct on February 22nd, 2022, let's liberate ourselves from the old world system of tyranny, which involves but is not limited to peddling irrational fears to control people. Give it a shot. And I am so grateful to have spent time with you today on this bonus podcast. This is the USA Going to Hell in a Handbasket podcast. Again, the answer is no. Please understand where these messages come from. Please understand that we have an opportunity to augment our social and economic and spiritual climate here in the United States, not by sticking our head in the sand, but by accepting that we have co-created a culture that makes money off of fear, and we can unco-create that culture as well. There is a difference between being afraid and being informed. There is a difference between preparing and reacting. There is a difference between being in the know and obsessing over fearful clickbait headlines. There is a difference between learning, and there is a difference between being so stuck in one belief system that we no longer can learn. There is a difference between having our convictions, which are innate to our spiritual self, to our innate life path, and there is a difference to becoming a radical obsessive person that becomes a zealot. You know, there are differences. There are shades of gray here. There's more than 50 shades. There's like 1,000,000 shades. And we're so afraid to tackle these shades of gray because it takes emotional effort. Or does it? You know what doesn't take a lot of effort? It doesn't take a lot of effort to remind ourselves to be calm and to ask ourselves, am I reacting to this because I'm conditioned to do it, or am I choosing to do it? And am I clicking this headline because I'm afraid it's all gone to hell? Or am I clicking it because I just can't look away from the car wreck? Temperance is a good thing. My lefty activist friend would disagree with me. Yet that is not that individual's life path. Their life path is to disrupt. And I have some dear constitutional conservative friends, and their life path is to disrupt. Yet they are good people, and they are not harming people or suggesting that we enact violence on one another. They are not suggesting we victimize one another. So let's remember why we're here. Write your own Declaration of Independence on emancipating yourself from the old world that no longer serves any of us. And write your own rules of governance that do not include the old world's fear systems, oppression, victimization, shaming, hatred, polarization, restriction of resources. Allow your brilliance to spill out on a piece of paper, and you will be so inspired by the individual that looks back at you in the mirror. And I want you to know that there are millions and millions and millions, hundreds of millions, hundreds of thousands of millions, billions of us. There are billions of us all over the world going through this same exercise. We are the majority. We never need to be like-minded, yet being like-hearted is what ends up bringing through our true brilliance. Be lawful, be kind, be brilliant, disrupt in a way that doesn't erupt, and I will see you next podcast.